Hi guys. Today I'm going to show you how to make a snowflake using the tissue paper that I gave you. Now you can use tissue paper that might be used for wrapping gifts, but you can also use tissue paper that comes from a Kleenex box or a tissue box because those are perfect squares. The important thing is that it is a perfect square. It's very important. Okay? So if you have a piece of tissue and it's not a perfect square, you're going to have to figure out how to make it a square. And one way to know if it's a square is to know that when you fold it diagonally, it actually makes a triangle, a right triangle. Okay? So what you need to do first is your tissue paper that you got in your box might be a little wrinkled, and you can find one that you think is flat enough. And the snowflakes that we're going to make, they come out, they're very fragile. They come out, let me show you an example. We are creating a symmetrical snowflake. We've done a lot of symmetry this year. And no matter which way you turn this snowflake, the pattern exists on either side, and it repeats itself in a pattern, in a spiral pattern is what it's called. Okay, so the first step takes a lot of folding and really paying attention to the way you fold. Okay, so the very first step is to turn your square this way, and then I fold up. So you either fold up or fold down, and you create what's called a triangle. And this is not just a normal triangle. This is a right triangle because it has this perfect square corner in the corner. Okay. Now, after you fold that triangle, make sure you have this fold at the bottom and the opening at the top. And always try to keep in mind where the center of your square is. So right now the center of our square is right here. So our square was here. The center of our square is here. This is still the center of our square. So the next step is to fold sideways this way. And you're still going to end up with a right triangle, but it's going to be smaller. Right? And when you get there, go ahead and crease it in the corners there, or on the sides, edges. And now, our center of our square is here. Right? These are all the openings. Okay? Now we're going to do one more fold, keeping our center of our square pointing toward us. Do one more fold across. And now, the center of our square is here. Now this is important because if you keep in mind the center of your square, everything that we do in here is going to get repeated into a circle like this. We don't want to cut totally across, right? And we don't want to fold this center up, or we lose the ability to create a spiral pattern. Okay? So the next step is to figure out where you want to make cuts. If you always keep this center of the square pointing at your belly and kind of work your way around it, then you won't mess it up. So the first step I do in order to make like a circular snowflake is I go to this corner and then I cut this into a curve. I cut a curve here. Okay? And you might choose not to do that. That's okay. Now, the best way to do this is to take bites out of all the sides. Everywhere you take a bite out of is going to be repeated on every fold that you did. So in order to take a bite, you can't just make a slit. You actually have to take a chunk of it out, and you don't want to cut all the way across. Your chunks can be in different shapes. Like if I do a chunk like this, that's like a half of a heart, I'm going to end up with some things that might look like heart shapes. I'm going to cut a chunk like that. I'm going to take a chunk that looks like more square. Okay. I can actually cut the very tip off, and then I'll have a hole in the center. I can cut chunks out of the edge. And the more chunks that you take out of it, the more detailed your snowflake will be. Okay. And I'm going to cut like little corners off. All right. Now, when I open it, because you have to make sure you keep it fold it until you think you're all done because it's very hard to refold it. When I open it, everything I cut is going to be repeated, right? You have to open it carefully because tissue paper is fragile. I open it really carefully, and actually I think I may have made two here. So even my half of hearts, they turned out kind of like hearts, right? This would have been the square, this would have been the little triangle piece that I cut. These were all the bites I took out of the outside of it, okay? Now actually tissue paper is 2-ply, which means it has two pieces to it, so I actually made two snowflakes that are exactly the same, right? Which is kind of cool. Now the reason I have a glue stick out is because one way to hang these up that's really cool, ask your parents first though, is to put a little bit of glue on a window. A teeny bit of glue in kind of in a pattern like this on the window, and then stick the snowflake onto the window. Okay, so I'm at my window. I'm going to show you how I do this. I put a little bit of glue. I'm going to wind it up. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on my window and about the same size as my snowflake. Not a lot of glue on the window because it's hard to get it off. And then I'm going to stick my snowflake, stretch it out, and stick it on that glue. Okay, and I might want to put a little bit up here to make it stick and hold up. And then my snowflake makes it look like it's snowing outside. It's so fun. Okay, now I'm going to show you another way to fold that will give you an even more detailed snowflake. The first three folds are the same. So I fold up, right, with my square tissue. I fold across, keeping my center and my square pointing toward me. Another triangle. You'll get really good at this if you practice, right? Here's the center of my square is still pointing at my belly. If I take this side now, I'm going to put this edge against this edge. I'm not going to get, it's not going to match totally perfect at the top. That's the trick. It's only going to match on the edge. But if I fold it over this one more time, this is an extra fold, then whatever I cut out repeats itself another time. So then when I cut from here, and I take my chunks out, I'm going to have a more detailed snowflake. So it's a little harder to cut from this one because it's thicker, because you have cut more, right? But I keep cutting across. I'm going to cut this off. I'm going to cut the tip of this off. I'm going to cut a triangle out of here. See what happens with that. I'm not sure how that'll come out. All right, you don't have to do that round thing across the top if you want a square type of snowflake, because some are squarish, right? So I'm going to show you what this would look like. And again, I had, I think, 2-ply tissue, so I'm going to end up with more than one. When I open this up, I'm going to get even more repetition to my pattern. Okay, I'm going to show you that against this one. This was the one that we folded the first time, and then this one, it repeats even more. Okay. One of a really cool book you might want to look up on Epic is Snowflake Bentley, and he was a guy that took photographs of real snowflakes, and it shows how incredibly detailed they are and how the patterns in them are just amazing. So have fun with this, and good luck. And remember, it takes practice to get the folds perfect, but you can be pausing the video as you go and really learn how to do this well. Good luck.